Perfect.
Wonderful. We had Marco on the show earlier, and it was 6 a.m. in San Francisco, and he woke up to do the stream, and I was like, we should have just put in a later time, buddy.
Wow, that's early.
Hey, tell me about it. Look, I'd love a little bit of intro to you so that everyone watching understands. Who is Nora? What is Alba Health?
Great. And thanks so much for having me, Viraj. So I'm Nora Cavani. I'm the CEO and founder of Alba Health, and I'm on a mission to stop allergies and eczema and immune conditions, which are increasing worldwide. And the reason why I'm doing that is that I suffered from very severe eczema all over my body some years ago. So imagine when I was 27 years old, I started to have these rashes everywhere. It was very severe. I was in pain 24/7. I couldn't work full time anymore. I was working in management consulting. I was traveling a lot around the world. It was a very fun time in my career, and I had to stop everything because I was so in pain and I was so young at that time. So as many people that have these kind of issues, I went to the doctors, I went to so many specialists, and they all told me you have an immune chronic disease. And there's nothing to be done to cure it. You'll have to live like this for the rest of your life. What you can do is to apply cortisone cream and, try to manage the symptoms. And for me, that sounded like a nightmare. I really didn't accept it and didn't want to understand it. So I, first of all, started to look for solutions. I have a background in molecular biology. I've always been a nerd in health. I tracked my health in several different ways. I started to make my own lotions and pharmaceutical ingredients when I was younger. So I ended up reading so much about it, talking to so many scientists all around the world, becoming so nerdy about it. I changed my diet, I changed my lifestyle, I did a lot of trials and error, but in the end, you can see my skin is clear, and I haven't had this for 2 years. So I
Still look 27.
Yeah. No, 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 no. That was so I had this for many, many years, and now I'm 33. I've been free of this for 2 years.
Amazing. So I guess the first question is, what did you change?
A lot of things, but the key thing for me was to understand that eczema, which is a skin condition, everyone thinks, oh, it's a skin condition. But actually, it's an inflammatory condition. So it comes from inflammation. And where does inflammation come from? It can come from many things. But in my case, it largely came from my gut microbiome, so the microbes in our gut.
So the gut affects our skin.
Yes, actually, 70% of our immune system is in our gut, and the gut can either support our body or produce inflammation. Inflammation can give any sorts of chronic symptoms. So it can be eczema, it can be allergies, it can be diabetes, it can be weight gain, it can be mental health issues, it can be IBS, but it can also be aging faster. So many people are interested in longevity today, so that's also an important thing to know. So our gut can influence inflammation, and inflammation can influence any organ. So that connection for me was kind of new. I mean, I studied molecular biology, so I kind of knew it in theory, but I didn't know it had such a big impact. And back then, I did a gut microbiome test it was very hard to do at that time, and I found out that my gut was very out of balance. When I changed the way I was eating, then I restored my gut microbiome. I completely changed it since then, and today I don't have those symptoms anymore. So when my gut microbiome changed, my health changed. And now with Alba, I'm on a mission to help everyone understand this, in particular parents with children, because it matters even more. And that's the time where you can prevent and reduce the risk of eczema and allergies, which are becoming a huge problem in Western countries.
Is it as simple as you can just erase, it's not a disease, but you can sort of erase this problem that people have with their gut through medication? Or is it very much like we need to teach you the foundations of what it means to eat properly, to nourish yourself properly? Can you explain to me a little bit around that?
Right. So imagine the gut microbiome as a forest. It's an ecosystem. Right. So you have a lot of different microbes that exist in an ecosystem, so in a balance. And the most important thing here is to give them the right fertilizer, right? Which is the food. So that the food that we eat is the fertilizer for our gut microbiome. Probiotics can help. Other supplements can help. Medications, unfortunately, do the opposite. So they are disruptors. So antibiotics, we know they kill bacteria, right? So they can damage the gut microbiome. Of course, they can be needed sometimes to clear up an infection, but they can damage the gut microbiome, so the good microbes. Other medication, as simple as paracetamol, so like Tylenol, ibuprofen, or things for acid reflux, they can also damage the gut microbiome. So it's more about giving the right fertilizer and removing the disruptors. That's how you learn how to take care of the gut microbiome.
Clear. All right, let's get into Alba a little bit. So does it end up looking like a piece of software? Does it end up looking like courses? Like what does the company look like today?
So Alba started from one key insight that really blew my mind, which was that our gut microbiome is even more important during childhood
Right.
because the gut microbiome helps train our immune system, our metabolism, and our brain. So it's like in the first 3 years of life, you set up your health, the foundations of your health for the rest of life. And the interesting thing that really blew my mind is that scientists found out that if they test the gut microbiome of a child, they can predict their health later. So they can predict if this child will become allergic, will have eczema, will have obesity, or other conditions later in time, not just in that moment. So that was very interesting because today 40% of kids have a chronic disease. Allergy have increased by tenfold in some countries in Western world. So chronic diseases are becoming so common, and especially allergies. And I thought, why is that? Oh, it's because of antibiotics, C-section, these kind of disruptors that are disrupting the gut microbiome in kids today. So I thought, okay, if we can test the gut microbiome in kids and fix it, perhaps we can raise an entire generation which will have less chronic diseases, will live longer, will be healthier, and will help this generation be free of chronic diseases. So my mission really became, let's stop allergies and eczema. So what we did at Alba is that we developed a gut microbiome test specifically for children. And our technology uses the latest technology in gut microbiome analysis, which is looking at all microbes, all parasites, all bacteria in there. So not just some classes, not just some of them, but all of them. So we do that. Our customers are parents of kids from 0 to 18 years old. They take the test. It's a poop test. So they take a poop sample. It's very easy. They receive the results. So they see, okay, this is what my child's gut microbiome looks like. This is what it's linked to. So for example, there's a high risk of allergies, of eczema, of obesity, and so forth. And then we pair it with nutritional guidance with a one-to-one with a nutritionist. So the nutritionist explains to the parents, this is how you can tweak your meals or change your meals and your child's meals to improve and boost their gut microbiome. And what we see in terms of results is that most kids that have constipation or eczema resolve it or highly reduce it. And those problems, I don't know if anyone in the audience is a parent that is experiences those problems. They're awful because when kids have eczema, they scratch all the time, they cry, they cannot sleep. So it's terrible to have a child that has eczema or even constipation because they can really, really impact the entire family. So with these changes, really, you can see measurable impact on the child's health. In many other situations, a lot of our customers have a child with no symptoms, but they can still detect some imbalances early on and fix them. And a lot of them say, you know what, I thought my child had no symptoms, but actually he's a lot calmer now, sleeps better, everything works better. And I feel more comfortable and less anxious about what I'm feeding my child. So
Can
those
I
are the
ask, why is it you take the stool sample? Why is that so important? What does it have in it that helps us understand that we can make these changes, or like it helps us better understand ourselves?
So from the stool sample, we can really analyze the gut microbiome. So what we do
Right.
is that we extract all microbial DNA. We do DNA sequencing, not of the human DNA, but of the microbe DNA. And we can see everything that is in there. If we don't see that, it's very hard to give recommendations. We can only give general recommendations. But to give you one specific example, a lot of kids that have eczema or allergies miss one specific class of bacteria and sometimes some specific strains. So not only we recommend a certain diet, but we also recommend some specific probiotics. Because imagine it like this, if a child doesn't have a strain at all, first you need to put the seed, right? So first you need to add the strain through a probiotic, and then you provide the right food, which is the fertilizer, and you make it grow. So that's why a lot of parents that just take generic advice don't see results because they just change diet and maybe they eat in a very healthy way, but the child is missing that specific strain. So that's why what we can see.
Clear. So the platform and the test that you've built, so that you've built the test and there's a platform attached to it. How is it able to analyze so much?
Right. So we're the first and only company in the world that has a longitudinal clinical study on the child gut microbiome. So what it means is that we collect the samples on kids over time. So for the
Right.
same child, we took
Oh,
many
so
samples.
building that proprietary data set.
Yeah, exactly. And then we know if they turn out to be healthy or not later in time. So for some of our features, we use machine learning and we can tell, oh, this child has some signatures that look like those other children with constipation. And then you can tackle that, and then we see a lot of results, for example, with constipation. So that's why we're different. And we have put together this data set that link the gut microbiome to hundreds of parents' concerns. So also sleep, digestive issues, constipation, other gut problems, allergies, eczema, and so forth.
Clear. How long is that taken? Is it just that you have to consistently do more tests on more kids? And then on ramping parents into using these tests, where do you even begin to think about doing that? Do you have to like send out pamphlets, a lot of running a lot of ads, going to events? How do you think about the distribution of it all?
Yeah, so at the very beginning, first of all, my co-founder has been working on this for more than 15 years. So
Wow.
he started one of the biggest studies in the world on this. In that study, they had 1,000 babies and they followed them for 6 years. And then after that, so that was a very detailed data set. We started to work with another data set in Denmark that has over 20 years follow-up. So we basically put together all the biggest data sets and all that knowledge. And then we collected our own, which is very new because no other company has that, like owned by a company. So we spent a couple of years basically collecting those samples and following over time. And now we have customers, so paying customers, and they a lot of times decide to do multiple tests over time. And they can decide if to opt into research, but the majority of our customers opt into research. We always anonymize the data, so we never track it to one specific user. But we can use it to improve our product and also to do scientific publications. So we just submitted our first scientific publication, and we're also contributing to increasing the knowledge and really stopping chronic diseases. That's the whole thing. The whole paradigm shift is to stop chronic diseases and completely erase them instead of just coming up with products that mask the symptoms.
The publication that you've released, can you talk to me a little bit about that?
We can't talk much about it until it's fully published. So now we submitted it and it will be peer reviewed and it will be published in a few months. But just to give you an idea, we found out something very worrying. Which is that, it is in line with other studies that have been done in the US. So I can maybe talk to you about those studies. What
Let's
was
do
fun.
it.
Yeah.
And then we'll just get you back on once it's peer reviewed and everything's assessed and it's
Right.
all kosher.
Yeah. So in the US, there are two big studies that found out that 25% of children don't have some gut bacteria that train the immune system. So
So
they
they
have
have no gut bacteria at all.
no, that train the immune system. It's like one entire class of bacteria that are supposed to be very, very good and critical for kids. They don't have it at all. And that makes them that gives them a much higher risk to have allergies, eczema, and asthma. And 90% of children in the US miss one specific gut bacteria that trains the immune system. So again, that's a higher risk of allergies, of eczema, of inflammation, and immune conditions. That's extremely worrying. A lot of scientists all around the world have been really flagging this, because that might be why allergies are becoming more and more common. And we found something similar in Europe, because a lot of the times people say, oh yeah, but in the US everyone is unhealthy and food is worse, and in Europe things are so much better. So we found similar things in Europe. And this goes into a bigger topic, which is that all of us are losing microbes in our gut because of our modern lifestyle. You know, we live in clean environments, take antibiotics, eat packaged food. So all of us are progressively losing microbes in our gut. And that is a terrible thing. It's an ecological catastrophe. It's like climate change, but inside of us, right? It's what's happening to the planet, but inside of us. And that is contributing to the rise of chronic diseases.
And so how do you end up countering that? You know, what do I have to do to make sure that I don't lose my gut biomes?
So for kids, it's easier because imagine that when we are born, our gut is empty. So it's like an field. So if you add, for example, probiotics, it's like putting a seed in an empty field. And then it develops over time. For adults, it's not as easy. It's not as easy as just taking probiotics. It's more about changing diet and removing disruptors. So changing diet means, in a just generic way, increasing fiber, for example, eating more fiber, and removing disruptors like medicines, like antibiotics, like ultra-processed food, like living too clean without never being in nature, these kind of things. The problem is that I find, these recommendations are extremely generic and are so boring for people to follow. So the reason why I test myself every 3 months is that I want to know specifically where I stand and what I need to do. And over the years, remember these bacteria that I told you, they help the immune system. I used to have 3%, now I have 17%. So I increased them sixfold, pretty much, just by changing diet and making adjustments to my diet.
That's insane. And so I have to figure out, well, one, it's probably best to get the test, figure out what's wrong with my gut, and then I can make those changes based on that. And it's not as simple as just change your diet and take probiotics. It's a holistic view.
Yeah, it's also lifestyle, because, for example, sleep can affect the gut microbiome, stress as well, exercise, so a lot of different things. And it's incredibly interesting also for longevity, if you're interested in that. I'm, of course, interested in all of that. And actually, this year, there was a very interesting study on the woman who lived the longest in the world, up until 117 years old. So when they analyzed her gut, they saw that her, scientists were really looking for what is different with this woman. Is there something that is the secret of her long life? And they found that her gut microbiome looks like the gut microbiome of a child. So that might be why she kept young so much. So everyone was like, what does it mean? What is the gut microbiome of a child? And I was like, I know what that means, because I have the biggest data set ever on this. So I know what that means. That means having a high share of certain bacteria. And that's the one that I'm trying to increase over time. And that's also the ones that increased as my symptoms went away. So there's things there.
That's really interesting. I think I've got to ask this question. When you think of longevity today, I think of Brian Johnson, right? Have you tested his gut?
So I've been a speaker at his conference. So I met him a few times, and I had the chance to speak at this conference last year. He's great. I really find him super inspiring. But no, I haven't tested his gut. Maybe I
I
should
think we
ask
need
him.
definitely just a celebrity gut test, and you can sort of
Yes,
rank it against that.
yes, definitely. That's a
I
good
love
idea.
it. How long has this been in business for? Like, how long have you been building the startup for? Give me a little bit of conversation around that. I'd love to understand how do you begin to think about scaling this into a global organization?
I had the idea about 3 years ago, and I raised our pre-seed round about 2.5 years ago. That was 2.6 million euros. So it was a big start, just with an idea, no product, no team. And we were backed by VCs and the founder of Aura,
Oh,
which is now
nice.
a 11 billion company. Yes, and then we topped up with 2.4 million this year, so we raised 5 million in total. And
Incredible.
yes, and it went from being an idea to a product. Now we already have several thousand customers. We have 4.9 out of 5 on Trustpilot, so it's a product that is very, very appreciated. And we've been growing a lot this year, over 50% month on month. So it's been really a journey. And now we've been growing mainly in Sweden, and now we're growing more in the UK. We're available in all of Europe.
Amazing. I want to understand, right? Is this something that people will have to do monthly, or is it a once in a cycle? Is it once a year? I was at Neko Health the other week, and they were having a conversation around like you come yearly or you come every 6 months for your checkup. Is this a similar type of product to that, or is it something that I can test myself on a monthly basis so it turns into a SaaS product, subscription product?
Um,
Sorry.
What we recommend is generally every 3 to 6 months, especially
Right.
for kids, because at different time points you can see different things. And especially some of them, a lot of kids take antibiotics. So they test, they identify some sort of imbalance, we recommend a change, and then we want to see the difference later. So with the repeat testing, you can see actually what's changing and what's working and what's not working. So we see that a lot of our customers do that, retest after 3 to 6 months.
What have you found in children is sort of the serious indicator between which ages? And so, like, is it 3 to 6 or 3 to 4 that you find that children like are there is a potential for them to have serious gut issues, or is there just no identifying pattern yet because you don't have the data set?
So the earlier you can test, the better it is, because imagine that from birth they will start developing everything in the body, right? So the earlier you can act, the more you're affecting everything downstream. So that's the critical time. But of course, like in the first 2 years, actually it would make a lot of sense to test more than just every 3 months or every 3 months, because let's say from 0 to 3 months, there are some things that happen. From 3 to 6 months, there are other things that happen, and so forth. Later, after 2 years, twice a year would be fine, once or twice a year. So it really depends on the age. Early on, it makes sense to test more frequently, and later on, it could be once or twice a year.
Okay, a little bit of a quick fire round before we wrap this up. I'd love to know what's the best gut you've looked at.
The best gut I've looked at, there are some kids that are perfect, but very few, very few. I have to say it was very few, and I know the parents, and they eat perfectly. They're very, very attentive to their diet and to how they live, and they've been doing things very, very intentionally. So those are the best ones I've seen.
What is an example of a great diet for a child?
It depends on their age, but it's not just about the child, it's also about the parents, because the child gets the microbes from the parents. So if the parents didn't have a good gut microbiome, they wouldn't get it. But in general, it would be a diet with a lot of fiber and a lot of different types of fiber. So a lot of vegetables, a lot of legumes, a lot of fruit, and a lot of whole foods instead of processed foods. So imagine, so it would be the families that cook, that maybe prepare their snacks with fruits and vegetables instead of packaged things, those kind of things.
For you, with you bringing back your gut health to 17%, how do you continue to make sure that you are keeping a healthy gut?
Yeah, that's a good question because I'm also very busy. But what I do, so my hacks are that I try to make most of my meals. So I prepare most of my meals and it needs to be quick because I don't have a lot of time. So my biggest hack is that I use one of these services where they send you like a box of different vegetables that are in
Uh-huh.
season, organic, and then I batch cook them and then I eat them. So I make
Nice.
sure that I eat a lot of different vegetables and they're different every week. And I eat a lot of variety because if I have to go to the supermarket and start thinking what I buy, I will buy the same things over and over again. And
I think
always,
that's my problem. I just go to
yeah,
the supermarket and I'm having the same thing every single day.
right. So with the box, I solved a lot of those problems because it just comes and I just need to eat that. So that's much simpler. And I make a big jar with a lot of different seeds and nuts, and then I sprinkle it everywhere. So I make sure I add some fiber to my meals. So I have a lot of vegetables. I buy some meat and fish, and then I buy a lot of these seeds and nuts and everything, and then all that together gives me a lot of fiber. Make sure that I have food that comes from whole foods, and I don't buy stuff out all the time. And it really doesn't take a lot of time, actually. I don't spend a lot of time on that, but if you just get into that rhythm, it can make a huge difference. I've been doing that for years, and I run a company and travel a lot, but still manage to do that.
And don't forget the raised 5 million. Like that's a hard
Yes.
thing to do. That's a really hard thing to do. Look, last question before we let you go and solve gut health around the world. I love to ask founders on the show who their favorite founders are, who's on their Mount Rushmore. So for you, who is that? 4 founders that you look up to, inspire you, are on your Mount Rushmore of incredible people.
So I definitely love the founder of Aura, not because he's my investor. He was one of my favorites before.
I love
I
it.
actually, when I met him, I didn't think he would invest or anything. For me, it was just, one of these fan moments where I would just talk to him and introduce myself, say what I'm doing, and just say, thank you, it was great to meet you. And then by the end of the call, he said, you know what, you're so cool. I want to invest in your company. So that was that was incredible, to be honest. And
Do you riff together on like health ideas?
Yeah, and also I think one of the reasons why I appreciate him so much is that he built a company with purpose and with good values. So he's an incredible human being beyond being a super brilliant person. So that's what I admire a lot. And yeah, we have a lot of health ideas and talk about data and so forth, of course. Then another founder I really, really admire is Sarah Blakely, if you know her.
I
Uh,
don't.
she's she's the founder of Spanx. It's not a tech startup. It's a company that makes shapewear for women. She built $1 billion company with no external funding, which I find is very remarkable. And as a woman on her own, she started with $5,000. She built a product that people love, and she had a mission, and she's extremely inspiring as a person. And it became $1 billion company with no external funding. So I find that remarkable, I would say. Yeah, so those are the things I really
So we got
admire.
Aura, we got Spanx. What are the other two?
Other two, let me think. I really love the company Natural Cycles as well. So this is a smaller company and it started in Sweden. And it was started by a couple, actually, husband and wife. And it's a company that helps women track their cycle. And it could be it became the first digital birth control. It can help to get a pregnancy, but also to not have a pregnancy. And it became the first digital contraceptive in the world, approved by
Wow.
FDA. Yeah, I love it because these guys didn't just, come up with some sort of digital way to operate, like telemedicine or this kind of things. They invented with data a new use case and something that basically helps women have a birth control without taking hormones. Hormones have side effects, right? And it also disrupt the gut microbiome. So that's also a product that I love, that I've had for such a long time. And I love the fact that they started from their own problem, and they built a company around it. So that I found really, really inspiring.
We got one more.
One more. Let me think. Hard.
Oh, come on, it's home turf. Swedish, Nordic, Daniel Ek.
Yeah, I mean, there's many that there's so many that maybe okay. The thing is that there's many people that created amazing companies. It's just I try to think of the ones I know personally. But yeah, let's go with Daniel Ek.
Well, I mean, like you could sort of, an incredible company that he's built in the context of health or helped build or
Yeah.
helped fund is Neko, right? And so it's
Yeah.
sort of in line.
Yeah, I think that, okay, that's a great point. And I think like what I admire of them is that they're exactly going in the same direction of really trying to stop and end chronic diseases and go towards preventative health. And they made it really big for the first time. So that's probably the company that was able to raise the most and get the most customers in preventative health, which is somewhat difficult for many reasons. So yes, I think that's a good point. Deserves a
No,
spot.
it does. Like you see, you saw the pivot there. It was like I wasn't going down the Spotify, right? It was like, let's get you into that. Look, this has been awesome. I can't wait to talk more about stools and gut health with you when that paper gets finally published. Let's get you back on the show with your co-founder.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Viraj. Thank you for
No,
having me. It was really
pleasure's all
fun.
mine. I'll speak to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.